Necromorphs are the result of exposure to the mysterious extraterrestrial monoliths known as the markers. They take the form of corpses that have been reanimated and reshaped into horrific new forms by a recombinant infection derived from a genetic code etched into and transmitted by the markers. The resulting creatures are extremely aggressive and will attack any uninfected organism on sight. The sole purpose of almost all necromorph forms is to acquire more bodies in order to convert them and spread the infection. They are even worshipped by some and believed by them to be the heralds of humanity's ascension. The necromorphs are controlled via the markers by a group of entities known as the Brethren Moons. All necromorphs are extremely hardy and capable of surviving in lethal environments such as the vacuum of space. This implies a total lack of respiration or reliance upon vascular activity, which explains the necromorph's resistance to wounds that would cause massive blood loss. The transformation process will take unneeded musculature, organs and bone and repurpose them into weapons like scythes, spikes, claws and teeth. Many necromorphs feature yellow luminescent tumour-like growths or pustules. These sacs explode violently when ruptured. It is possible that these organs serve as sources of energy for the necromorph. There is a sub-breed of the infection known as enhanced necromorphs. While their physical shapes are identical to the normal variants, enhanced necromorphs are a slimy black colour with yellow glowing eyes. This dark coloration will often make them much harder to spot, and they can take more damage than the regular types. Necromorphs can take on many different forms. Some types are made from a single body and others are made from multiple bodies. The type of necromorph created largely depends on location and circumstance. For example, slashers are made from a single adult human, lurkers are usually created from infant organ banks used for medical transplants, but in other cases have also been made from dogs. So not only can a single species be used to create multiple necromorph types, but single types can also be created from multiple species. This shows that the mutations are not created at random, but actually made to fit a predetermined arrangement. Guardians are created from hosts who have been affixed to surfaces, and stalkers are believed to be created from twins. Some necromorphs are composed of more than one human, such as brutes, tripods and hive minds, which is another indication that a form of intelligence is at work allocating biomass for specific use. In certain cases, necromorphs have been created via the insertion of necromorph tissue into the brain of a living host. This can result in exceptionally powerful necromorphs capable of regenerating severed appendages in a matter of seconds. The most well-known necromorph of this type was the Hunter, an experiment of the crazed unitologist Dr. Chalice Mercer. On the planet Tau Volantis, numerous necromorphs created from the native creatures were encountered, meaning any living organism in the universe can be infected, no matter the species. If you're interested in exploring all the various different necromorph forms out there, then make sure to watch my video where I go into every single necromorph type in the card at the top right of the video, and I'll have a link to it in the description as well. The creation of a necromorph first begins with the markers. These structures broadcast a highly concentrated electromagnetic signal that alters any dead tissue in range on a cellular level, converting it into necromorph tissue and reanimating the corpse of the host organism. Necromorphs are structurally held together by the signal and will degenerate into an organic soup in its absence. This signal also affects the minds of any nearby intelligent life forms, usually manifesting in dementia in individuals with low to average intelligence, and will lead to homicidal and/or suicidal actions, setting the stage for the coming necromorph infection. In individuals possessing above average intelligence, the signal will compel them to attempt to decipher its meaning, which contains a set of blueprints to reverse engineer and replicate the markers, spreading their influence. The infection is also spread directly through the necromorph pathogen, that is, the reanimated cells created by the markers and which compose the necromorphs. Typically, the infection is passed on to new host bodies via specialised necromorphs such as infectors or swarms. As the necromorph pathogen infects only necrotic tissue, living victims who come into contact with it typically do not undergo transformation until death. However, living victims that ingest necromorph tissue in large quantities will undergo a gradual transformation, eventually dying and becoming feeders. Once the host is dead, the recombinant properties of the infection take hold. The process is extraordinarily rapid and violent. Cellular functions go into a self-destructive overdrive, creating new biologically active compounds which are then metabolized by reanimated flesh to fuel further mutations. Bones are broken, put together in new configurations, or reshaped into entirely new forms. All of this takes place within a matter of seconds, and the process generates tremendous amounts of heat. More often than not, the violently spasming corpses become so hot that stagnant blood begins to boil in the veins and arteries, rupturing the skin. Formerly vital organs, such as parts of the digestive system that are no longer needed, are broken down and turned into additional musculature, giving all necromorphs increased physical strength. Although incredibly deadly, necromorphs do have vulnerabilities depending on their specific archetype. Wounds that may kill certain necromorphs may not necessarily kill human beings, and vice versa. For example, most human beings can survive having all their arms and legs amputated cleanly, while most necromorphs can survive having their head amputated cleanly, with the reverses being fatal. However, both organisms, as with all organic organisms, will eventually expire after a sufficient volume of blood loss. It is advisable to induce as much blood loss as possible by any means necessary, while shooting at the torso or head are inefficient ways to deprive a necromorph host body of blood. Enough shots will eventually drain the body to the point where it finally dies, but it is much more efficient to sever the extremities such as the arms, legs, and the tails or tentacles if present. The second method to combat a necromorph is incineration. Most necromorphs will be killed if they sustain heavy burns. With the regenerator types, this is the only way to deal with them, as they can regrow their limbs. Others can only be damaged by directly attacking the yellow pustules present on some types, such as tentacles, brutes, and the hive mind, which can be considered weak spots. Countless people have met their end due to not knowing a specific necromorph's vulnerability, so it is important to pay attention and recognise each type's strengths and vulnerabilities. Rather than thinking and functioning individually, the necromorphs are instead controlled by a collective consciousness. An individual necromorph receives its orders from a single necromorph type called a hive mind. These colossal creatures can be made from thousands of human bodies, or in the case of the Nexus, a single giant alien. The hive mind necromorph serves as a relay and transfers the marker signal to the individual foot soldier necromorphs, acting as an organic command center. Their telepathic influence is also what holds necromorph tissue together, and without it, the creatures will break down into a primordial mush. The hive minds and markers then receive their instructions from the highest necromorph forms, the Brethren Moons, which are massive moon-sized creatures created after nearly every living organism on an inhabited planet has been killed and infected, and then all the biomass integrated together in a convergence event. The Brethren Moons are predatory on a planetary scale, and have spread throughout the universe with but a single goal in mind: consume all organic life. This crusade against biological life has gone on for countless millennia, leaving entire star systems completely devoid of even the most basic microbial life. If you're interested in learning more about the Brethren Moons, then I'll have a dedicated video on them going more in depth, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that when it drops, or if you're watching this in the future, then I'll have a card on screen now for you to go check it out. There exists a religion called the Church of Unitology, which revolves around the markers and believes convergence to be humanity's ascension into the afterlife. Unitologists adamantly believe that the human race was created by the intelligent design of a divine alien agency, and will be reunified after death, in heaven through the power of the markers. So that was all about the Necromorphs from the Dead Space franchise. Let me know your thoughts on them, as well as the Dead Space games themselves. I thought they were so much fun back in the day, and I'm curious to see how the remake turns out. It's really awesome to see such a cool franchise like Dead Space make a comeback after 10 whole years, and hopefully if the remake is good, we might even get a Dead Space 4 one day, so we can find out what was supposed to happen after Dead Space 3, which ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. Thank you for watching, remember to give the video a like for the time and effort it took me to make, and I'll catch you next time.